Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever it is for you. For me, it's Tuesday morning, February 25th, 2025, day 1098 of Vladimir Putin's war of aggression against the people of Ukraine, and day 45 of the subversion of the U.S. federal system in the person of Donald Trump. Now, another big one last night. So, listen, I'm sorry about last night's live for anybody that missed it. Saturday and Sunday overnight, we saw the largest drone strikes ever on Ukraine, and then a third one last night. And I guess Saturday and Sunday were kind of sleepless. And last night I went to lie down at 9 o'clock at night, and I woke up at 4 a.m. I slept 7 hours straight right through the live. I am so sorry, everybody. Dr. K, I don't know that you ever watch these things, but if you do, I'm deeply sympathetic to your inability to be up at midnight. Anyway, so last night, third night in a row, and again, remember what my buddy Dragon said. They're doing this because it's cold right now, because it's the winter. You knock out the power, the lights, the heat now, you terrorize the nation the most. I'm happy to report that starting Thursday, temperatures climb back into the 40s again. Our 3 weeks of winter, because really it was extraordinarily mild winter. It's going to go down as one of the warmest records on history. I feel confident about that. So we're in the 40s again starting on Thursday. So it could be that this is the last big round for a while. But again, last night it was loud. I guess it was the air raid siren at 4 a.m. that woke me up, honestly. I don't know how much longer I would have slept if it weren't for that air raid. But I did not hear any anti-aircraft fire. I didn't hear any air defense working. Anyway, we saw a total of 213 attack drones sent against the territory of Ukraine. Of those, 133 were shot down, 79 were taken out with electronic countermeasures or active countermeasures. We'll talk about that in a second. And that's 212 out of 213. Unbelievable. 99.5% interception rate. The interception rate for missiles last night was 100%. 6 out of 6 KH-101s shot down. Now, we think now, and for followers of this channel, you know, I suspected back in November that something like this was true. We now have the evidence that it is in fact true. This is video from the armed forces of Ukraine demonstrating their adapted Dragonfire laser weapon given to them. 2 prototypes were sent to Ukraine back, or at least 2 prototypes were sent to Ukraine back about a year ago. In the following year, the Ukrainians developed their own solution, tested it, and have put it into play. One would now call it a capability. Now, I'll go ahead and play this. And what you don't see anything really, because the laser is invisible to the human eye, right? You see what happens to the drone when it comes under laser fire. And I had suggested some time ago that the Ukrainians, remember it was back in October that the messaging from the Ukrainian armed forces changed. They started talking about simulator drones lost on location. And I had suggested that maybe they were using the prototypes of the laser weapon, testing them, and it appears that that is how they've been dealing with decoys. Now, there could well be a range of other weapons that they've also been testing and other electronic warfare countermeasures. But we now know that, in fact, the Ukrainians have this laser weapon, are the first ones ever to use it in battle, while at the same time, their counterparts in the Russian Federation army are carrying mortars to the front on pack mules and donkeys. This is why Ukraine has been able to stay in this fight. Ingenuity. Now, on the subject of ingenuity of the Ukrainians, there's another piece to this, right? For them to use this effectively and not let the drone swarms overwhelm air defense, run out of bullets, you have to be able to tell the difference between the decoys and the attack drones. And it seems very clear to me that for some time, the Signalman's Corps, or I don't know the structure of the Ukrainian army, some element within the Ukrainian army has been able to tell the difference through the radar signatures or by some other means. That's the only explanation for how the Ukrainians do such an amazing job of keeping the skies clear every night. And I stand in absolute awe of it. It's tremendous work, just tremendous work. Now, look, again, I don't want to get anybody's hopes up, and I don't want to overstate the situation. But it does seem like around Покrovsk, the tide is turning a little bit here, a little bit there. If you take a look here, you see this blue area? This is reclaimed territory. But this is not the only place where positions are being reclaimed. It appears now that positions are being reclaimed over on the western edge of this salient. Does it look to me like maybe the Ukrainians are trying to bridge this space and take all these guys into a pocket? Time will tell. But increasingly, we are hearing less and less about Russian advances, regardless of how small, and more about Ukraine retaking positions around Покrovsk. Keep your fingers crossed, right? We have no idea how this will play out, but this could be good news. Now, if I had found this, if this piece of video had been posted yesterday before I recorded the news we are waking up to, I would have included it. This is really, this is video from the very first day of the full-scale invasion. This is Snake Island, and this is a security camera at the island that was on at the time the Russians fired the first shots of the full-scale invasion at the Ukrainian territory of Snake Island, which, to give you some sense of just how ancient the Ukrainian people are and how long they have been here, Snake Island is reputed to be the burial place of Achilles, the hero of the Trojan War. It's said that Achilles is buried there. On the subject, on the subject of the rare earth steel, there is word going around, people are reporting, certainly the Kyiv Independent, the Kyiv Post, Moscow Times rather, all saying that the US and Ukraine are nearing terms on a rare earth deal. Now, this comes at the same time that we're hearing from the Kremlin that Moscow would be happy to welcome foreign investment, including American investment, in the exploitation of its vast mineral wealth, including in the occupied territories, by the way, which, if Elon is behind any of this, which you can be sure he is, what he needs most is in the occupied territories. There's a large lithium deposit there, the rights of which have been signed away to a South African company who has been, fact check me on that. It might be an Australian company. I apologize. I should have double checked before I did this. But just in the back of my head, I'm getting a tickle that it was an Australian company. It's either a South African or Australian company, to which the mineral rights to the lithium mine in the east of the country, in the occupied territories, have been signed away to. Elon needs that lithium for his batteries. So access to the lithium reserves in Ukraine, the major lithium reserve, it's in the occupied territories. So today we heard from Russia that Russia is welcoming foreign investment. Now, I want everybody to, if there's one thing that we fail to learn from history, or if there's one thing that we learn from history, it's that we fail to learn from history. This is just like 1992 again. It's astonishing to me that anybody would take these people seriously. ExxonMobil, Shell, they've all had all of their investments inside of Russia during this period nationalized, stolen right from them. Uniper, stolen right from them, nationalized to the cause of Putin's pocket. And now you're going to make a deal with the Russians for their rare earth minerals to break China's monopoly on these? Now, look, I'm all for breaking China's monopoly, but not at the cost of doing business with these genocidal lunatics in the Kremlin, and not at the cost of a neo-colonial economic coercion of Ukraine. No, no, that's not how you do business. We're not gangsters. Everybody should be looking for win-wins here. At the same time that Putin is saying that he would welcome foreign investment, of course he would. He needs new sources of money to steal. In his annual State of the Nation address on Monday, the third-year anniversary of the full-scale invasion, he called the collapse of the Soviet Empire the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the century, which goes to show you that the guy is living in the past. The fall of the Soviet Union wasn't in this century. It was in the last century. We have moved on. Why can't they? They're absolutely, all these fascists, they spew nostalgia like a drug. Nostalgia is the opium of the masses these days, and they feed their crew on fear and nostalgia. Now, much to the shame of the United States, we voted against, right? Look at 93 in favor, 18 against, 65 abstentions. Now, the 65 abstentions you can understand. This is a battle of powers. The European democratic powers on one side, Russia, and I can't even believe I'm going to say this, the United States on the other. The United States voted against a resolution condemning Russia as the aggressor in the war in Ukraine and placing blame squarely on the Russians. And if you look at who voted against it, these 18, there's a number of African countries, every one of them either has an active rebel movement in it that is sponsored by the Wagner PMC, now Africa Corps, or the government has already been overthrown by the Wagner PMC, and Wagner does security for the new junta that's in charge, like in Mali and Burkina Faso. And so the compromised nations of Africa, as well as a few others, all of whom have one thing in common. They are virtually all pariah states, with the exception of the United States and Israel, who voted against this resolution. On the resolution which referred to the conflict, the U.S. voted in favor of. There was more support for the softer language from everybody. Marco Rubio, the current U.S. Secretary of State, said this: "We decided it wasn't worth doing anything antagonistic against one side or the other. I'm sorry, against one side at the UN. We're trying to get these guys to the negotiating table." This is how the U.S. Secretary of State explained why Washington voted against the resolution condemning Russia. "I'm not saying this will end the conflict, but I definitely think our language is the best language. We have the best language. We have the best words. I know so many words, bigly words. This is the worst kind of appeasement that there is. legitimizing the dictator, the autocrat, the aggressor, appeasing him, telling him that there's fair people, good people on both sides. There aren't. There just aren't. And in this kind of weak, pathetic language of appeasement, I see the United States dying not with a bang, but with a whimper. The French, on the other hand, so I was very disappointed that yesterday the Empire State Building was not lit up in the colors of Ukraine. Very disappointed by that. I can't even believe that that was not the case. But the French aren't taking any shit, and the Eiffel Tower was lit up to honor the sacrifice of the people of Ukraine at this really critical time. And I thought it was a beautiful little video, and I thought I would share it with you here. It is nice to see our European allies standing where we once stood. Here in Ukraine, the motherland statue was lit up in the colors of Ukraine yesterday. This is just down the hill from me here. It's really quite a sight. It's about, gosh, it must be 3 times the size of the Statue of Liberty. I don't know. I'd have to look, but it's big. I lived near the Statue of Liberty for a long time. This is much larger. Okay, now on. You know what? I'm going to play this for you. Macron and Trump in a joint press conference yesterday. Take a listen. Okay, I'm not sure you could hear that, but the reporter said to Trump, hey, you've referred to Mr. Zelensky as a dictator. Do you stand by that? And he says, I don't use those words lightly. He doesn't take it back. He doesn't refute it. And he does not use that language to refer to Vladimir Putin, a man who has held on to power without surcease for 25 years at any cost, who has disappeared, dispatched, or detained every one of his political opponents to violently consolidate his hold on power. A man who has shut down all free press inside his country. Only the state message, only the voice of the dear leader is heard. He will not call that man a dictator, but he will call a man who is ready to leave the job if we would just let Ukraine into NATO as we have promised. He calls him a dictator. He goes on to tell more lies about the situation in Ukraine, particularly saying that Europe's money is all loans. They're guaranteed to get it back. Macron stops him right there, interrupts him, and tells him, no, that is not correct, and makes it clear that while some of the money that's gone to Ukraine from the European Union are loans, most of it is grants and outright aid. And so so to see him fact-checked like that was great, live, in real time, in front of the press. Sorry. Just a little funny here at the end. Look, for the whole first Trump administration, I was angry every day for 4 years. I argued with people vociferously, ad nauseum, about things that I would never convince them of, though I knew those things to be true. And I'm not going to be angry this time around. I'm just not. We have to face the reality that right now the United States federal system is in the hands of a foreign asset, and he is going to do as much damage in the next 2 years as he can. And apparently there is no one to stop him. And if we want him to help Ukraine, we are going to have to stroke that ego a little bit. Thank God Zelensky is the man he is and can do that in spite of the insults. He is a better man than me. I will tell you that. Okay, in every way, in every fucking way. That's the news we're waking up to for Tuesday, the 25th of February, 2025. My 2 years and 1 day in Ukraine. God, I slept really well last night. Anyway, thank you all so much. I'll see you on the live tonight.